Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's Power Hour, the second of our sessions taking a look at the Power Platform and how you can use it to improve your business. So I can see from the live stream that we've got 7 of you logged in this morning. So thanks for joining us. We'll give it a few minutes for a few people to creep in at the back before we get started. Then we'll do some introductions and dive into the agenda. We should be finished by 11:30 this morning, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A towards the end of the session. The event Q&A is open, so you can type any questions that you've got into the Teams Q&A, and we'll pick those up and answer them as we go through. If we don't immediately drop onto your question, don't panic. We will stop at an appropriate point during proceedings this morning and pick up the questions. So one of the great benefits of having a Q&A box. So just so everyone's aware of where that is, we'll make a quick announcement in there while we're waiting for the last few people to join. Hi, Q&A is here. Please to ask away. Okay. So, without further ado, let's get into introductions for this morning's session. So if you're not expecting to be in a Power App session, you're in the wrong place, because this morning we're covering ways that you can revitalize business applications using the Microsoft Power Platform, Power Apps in particular this morning. If you missed our previous Power Hour session, which focused on Power BI, do reach out to us if you're interested in that as well, and we can show you or share with you the live video recording of that stream, and do look out in the future for future sessions that we'll run. Introductions just quickly. So my name's Martin Clothier. I'm Technical Director at Columbus in the UK, and I'm responsible for the data and analytics side of the business, which is where we place Power Apps and the Power Platform right now, because of, as I say, Power BI and the analytics and the things like the common data platform, which sit within the Power Platform stack, if you like. So I've got a bunch of consultants who work with me on delivering solutions in Dynamics 365, finance and operations, and way beyond now into the full stack of the Microsoft platform that we'll sort of get into talking about this morning as in a little bit as an introduction. Joining me also on the call is Jason Bulcock. He'll be our main presenter. Jason, do you want to quickly say hello?
Morning, my name's Jason Bulcock. I'm a functional consultant with Columbus. My main area is finance, but also I have a line into citizen development on Power Apps.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And also joining us on the call, but lurking in the background for the Q&A is Llewellyn Britt. We might be able to tempt him to say hi. Can we, Willie?
Yes, okay. Hi, my name is Llewellyn Britt. I'm a technical fellow at Columbus. Been with the company for 15 years. Development background, also leading citizen development and some analytics helping out here today.
Thank you, Llewellyn. And Llewellyn's been leading people like Jason, who is really a functional consultant along the path and the journey to becoming a citizen developer this year. So, Jason, I think it's probably fair to say you didn't have a lot of development experience before you started the journey and put your hand up and volunteered to become a citizen developer. You said your background is mainly in manufacturing, but in the finance space.
Yeah, so I don't have a background in development, that's right. I think it's fair to say I'm one of those people who used to hug a spreadsheet to death in a finance department. I knew a little bit of SQL and a little bit of VBA, but certainly not a development background.
Perfect. So how's the journey been so far?
A little bit bumpy, but in terms of the ease of using the stat that we're using, if you can, all I will say is if I can use it and anybody out there who can use Excel, it's a pretty easy ride once you get used to it.
Absolutely. You've had a great teacher, right? You know.
He's not too bad.
So this morning's agenda, let's move on. So I was just made aware actually before we started the live stream that actually the Power Platform logos have changed in the last 24 hours. So huge apologies for our 24 hours out of date logos. But so this morning you don't really need to be massively au fait with the Power Platform and using it. So we're not expecting you to roll up your sleeves and jump in and start following along with Jason as he builds our app this morning. But you know, if you've got an awareness of the platform and the components in terms of Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, obviously, and then the virtual agents, and of course, what we haven't got on there is the data platform that underpins the common data service that underpins the Power Platform. So as long as you roughly know those components and you understand what a low code / no code sort of approach is to development, and also if you've got an idea for an improvement you need in your business, just keep that in mind as we go through the session. And if you've got any questions around Q&A or you'd like to follow up with us at some later stage, then do keep that in mind as we go through. But the introduction following this, we'll be jumping straight into the case study, the use case that we've put together for this morning's session, which is about kind of supplier conformity and certification of suppliers, and we'll be taking, as Jason will elaborate on, we'll be taking data from an on-premise solution, and this is where the breathing new life comes into play, because we'll be presenting that data through Power Apps, which could be later deployed onto a mobile phone or a tablet, used on the road, used in the warehouse, and have functionality that isn't there in the native app potentially added to it. So obviously we haven't got a great deal of time to add lots of functionality, so we'll be pretty much creating a like-for-like version of the app as it stands in the ERP system, Dynamics AX 2012, but you'll see as we go what's possible. Then Jason's going to take us through a tutorial again on exposing that data from on-premise into the cloud. And you can think of this as, you know, maybe a first step if you haven't yet persuaded your business to take a step into the cloud, or maybe you're considering an upgrade to a cloud version of your maybe Dynamics AX or other solution. Then, you know, this is a great way of taking that first step in terms of convincing the business that this is the way forward. Then we'll have hands-on demo from Jason in terms of creating the UI, the user interface for this app. We'll talk about how you can do a two-way sync with data, so from the cloud back to on-premise and vice versa, before we finish off with a Q&A and a walkthrough of what we've got in terms of what we call our lean business accelerators. And as I say, we should close around 11:30 this morning. So just quickly before I hand over to Jason, a few more words from me. So in terms of the way we see Power Platform as Columbus is we see it as a key tool for digital transformation, particularly now as we're entering what we're all calling the new normal. So from a Columbus perspective, you know, our three goals working with customers around digital transformation, and the three pillars that we like to think about is transform, optimize, and future-proof. So how does Power Platform enable you to do that, and how does that kind of fit in with adapting your business and making change to your business in this most challenging of years and challenging of times that we're currently in? So from a transformation perspective, you can use Power Platform to really, as we're going to show this morning, enrich functionality by leveraging the people in your business who know a process most. So if you can take someone like Jason, who's got no experience in terms of being a developer, and transform them into a citizen developer who knows the finance process, or knows the manufacturing process, or knows the logistics process, you can really leverage their knowledge to create the most incredible applications that are going to help your business. Maybe, and we've got some examples in a second of taking functionality to places it doesn't normally go within your business, that you might need to take it to adapt to the new norm. So, a use case that is suddenly probably, in the mind of a lot of publicans this morning, for example, in the UK, is how we're going to manage table service, right? So, there are apps out there that can help you do that. But that's the kind of thinking, we need to adapt our business for the new norm. How can we use this tech to help us do that? As I said earlier, we can consider this, we're looking at on-premise into cloud this morning, so we can consider this part of a step-by-step migration. The security is there that you already know in terms of Active Directory, and the data that you expose into the cloud is secure, whether you're running in a full cloud, on-prem / hybrid mode, using the sort of types of security concepts that you're probably already used to, and you can go down to a very granular level in terms of how you secure the data. From an optimization perspective, we've already said it's low code, no code, so you're not going to be sitting there typing lines and lines and lines of code and creating huge solutions. The whole idea of this, and what Microsoft has always been good at since the days of, BASIC way back when, in the 80s and 90s, as Jason mentioned, Visual Basic, those sorts of solutions that democratize the capability of businesses like yourselves to build solutions. And that's what Power Platform is all about. As I said this morning already, you can deploy this anywhere, and really leverage automated processes and actually start to bring AI into solutions as well as you become more mature with it. It's a cloud solution, so from its very fundamentals, it's really future-proofing your business in terms of making it evergreen, and the investment from Microsoft is there on this platform to build it into the future. You won't need to invest in any particular hardware to make this happen, and as I'm just going to get into in a second, you can add and remove functionality step by step in workloads based on the most value that's going to be added to your business as you go through. And in terms of things like Power Automate, where we're linking up applications from A to B, there's ever-growing support for lots of different standard applications. All the Office apps are supported, and there is always it's always worth looking. Is there a connector for application that the application we're using already in existence before we go looking at building some custom integration? So it just makes life easier to have these pre-built connectors that help you bring the information and data together. And then, as I've said, it's in the cloud, it's evergreen. There's a full life cycle management process that can be applied across this. So if you're an IT professional and you're worried about turning your business into a wild west of people creating shadow IT solutions with Power Platform, well, that isn't necessarily the way it needs to be. If you don't manage and control it, that's the way it'll be. But actually, there is the capability to put a full lifecycle management solution over the top of the Power Platform, so that you can stay in control and still leverage the innovation within your team. So just before I hand over to Jason, a quick sort of example. So really think of the Microsoft stack here with Power Platform as a platform, and think beyond just the Power Platform as well. So we've got Power Automate linking things together, but there's also its kind of big brother in Azure Logic Apps, for example. We've got increasingly support in applications like Microsoft's customer engagement solutions and the supply chain management solutions, to fire business events within those applications and start business processes based on those, reacting to what's going on in the business. So in this little scenario here, just to sort of talk you through how you can bolt on capability as you go through, as you go over time. In this example, this business wants to manage breakages. So, for example, if something is delivered and it's broken, or it's broken in the warehouse, they wanted to be able to manage that process, either get the broken component or the broken product reworked, or get it scrapped. I'm sure you used to enjoy, Jason, managing the scrap process in manufacturing in your finance life. Exactly. So hopefully bringing some order to that chaos with a standalone breakages app is where this business is thinking. It's going to use Azure AD as the security, and the business is also going to enable multi-factor authentication just to cover off any security concerns. So the breakages app is then going to feed through into the CRM solution through the common data service, and also to enhance that, if there's a breakage which isn't detected at delivery, then this business is going to create a customer service virtual agent, which is going to be able to do the first part of handling some of those inquiries, perhaps about breakages. So you might look for certain terms that come through when the chat's going on with that customer, and direct their call to the right location within the business, maybe create a case for replacing the product in the on-premise ERP. So again, flowing the data through with common data service and maybe the on-prem data gateway that we're going to see this morning. Then we maybe trigger an order on the shop floor, which is creating a replacement product. We might have some IoT automation during that process again, or which may trigger the next step to actually ship the replacement product. And in this case, we've got really fancy, and we've added some HoloLens, some AR picking solution within this, because we can deploy these sorts of apps into any sort of Windows device, including and as I said, we're extending this across the Microsoft platform, so we could be using machine vision. So we're really sort of blue skying it on this one, but we then flow through to the e-commerce solution out there on the edge of the business on the web, and we flow this data through and give it some intelligence to say, okay, we've needed to provide these spare parts to this customer, so perhaps when they log into their account next, we think about some other spare parts for the products that they buy, and suggest that they might want to order some of those, and maybe we even check their stock. You haven't ordered these for a while, do you need to buy some more spares for this product? So just a quick example of the way you can sort of start small and then add value to the business process through automation and digital transformation of this kind of business process using the Power Platform. Okay, so that's all from me for now. I will now hand over to Jason. Let me just quickly switch back to the right mode. Jason, if you want to start your sharing, I will then. Are you going camera on, Jason, or you?
I thought you were actually doing the next slide.
Oh, am I? Am I doing the next slide? Sorry. Okay. Let me share then. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Right, morning everybody again. Thanks for joining. I've just got 3 slides to go over the architecture of what we're using this morning. Do you want to next slide, Martin, please?
Yeah. Let me just turn my video off, Jason, otherwise people are seeing me. 2 seconds.
Okay, so this diagram is showing the architecture before we do anything. So the user desktop client connects to the application object server, known as the AOS. The AOS executes all business logic and persists data to the SQL server. So that's as we stand at the moment. Do you want to flip to the next slide, please, Martin?
Yep.
So after we've installed the gateway this morning, what we'll have is a data gateway app server connecting to the SQL database and the gateway service. And then Power Apps will push requests to the service, which are picked up by the app and resolved. So the gateway is sitting and transferring information between on-prem and obviously our apps. Next up. Sorry, next slide, thanks.
Yep.
So this is a brief slide of how the gateway works. So as you can see on the bottom, We've got our on-premise data service sources, our SQL server, our analysis server, other data sources, and our files, SharePoint, Excel, etc. Then we've got our cloud gateway sat between them, possibly an Azure service bus sat there. And then above that, you can see what we've then got access to grab the information and mold it and cut and slice it how we want to show it. Okay. Next. So what I'll do now, if I can just share screen now. Do you want to give me,
Share away.
Wait 1 second.
That's it, we see you.
Right, so what I've got here is my desktop. The first thing I'm going to do is log into Make Power Apps. Okay, so this is the Make Power Apps screen. And what I'm looking for here on the left-hand side is what data I have available to myself. So if I just come down to the bottom, I can see an option for gateways. Okay, now for this morning's purposes, we've already got a gateway set up for the demo that we're showing. But if you didn't have a gateway there, we'd go for New Gateway. Which takes us to the screen. Now, what we're looking for is our on-premise data gateway over here on the right-hand side. Okay, so we'll download this. And this really is just to show how simple this is to set up. This takes about a minute or so to download. It is a Microsoft minute, so it's just over, I should imagine, or just under. Once this downloads, we'll then open the gateway and we'll launch it and we'll set it up. If you do actually go on here after today's demo, and this takes a little while, just bear with it, because yesterday when I was practicing for today, it did take a little bit to do. Tried it this morning, unfortunately it was a lot quicker.
So Jason, once you've got this downloaded, installed and set up, this is something you need to leave running unattended somewhere, or perhaps on a server?
Absolutely. So this can't be sat on a machine that goes to sleep. This needs to be sat there open all the time. Just scanning for viruses and we should be good to go. Okay, let's open this file up. There we go. Okay, so it brings you to this screen, on-premise gateway installation. It's going to ask you where you want to install it. And as Martin said before, you want to make sure this is sat somewhere that doesn't go to sleep. Quickly accept all the terms and conditions. I know you'll probably want to read through them at your leisure.
As we always do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, and this will go away now and install this gateway onto your machine. Now, if this starts to take a little while at all, no, we're there. I was going to say I'd jump through the rest of the program, but we'll wait.
I guess it's the same sort of thing where if it detects it needs to install some other components, like maybe the .NET framework needs an update or something like that, it will do that at that point. I guess that's what you might have been experiencing previously when you installed.
Possibly. Yeah. It could have even been as simple as my broadband. Just trying to tease me while I was trying to set up for today.
Yeah. Well, you can't blame the kids anymore. Presumably they've all gone back to school, so it's not Minecraft.
Well, yeah, it can't be that. It can't be Netflix screening the ever-ending Glee or something ridiculous. Come on, last little bit.
So I guess you could have multiple of these gateways set up for different applications and databases that you want
yes,
to
you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
So that creates an additional instance of the gateway on the box alongside the one that you've got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess from an infrastructure perspective, you know, if this is going to be a key part of your infrastructure once you've gone live, then you'll want to put some high availability around this and look into that, so that if something goes awry with one box, it can move from one box to another.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Come on.
It's one of the last few bits of infrastructure we have to worry about, I guess, these sorts of gateways nowadays.
Yes, it is. Okay, there we go. Installation was successful. It's going to ask me for a email for this. Sorry. Sorry. Had the time this morning. Sign in. Oh, it should prompt me for a password. There we go. The account that I wanted, which and my password. Okay, that brings you to this. So do we want a new gateway on this computer, or do we want to migrate a previous one, restore, or even take over an existing gateway, move a gateway to a new computer? What we're going to do this morning is register a new gateway on this computer. Okay, we're going to call it PowerHour test. It always prompts you for a recovery key, which you need to keep in a safe place. And then just hit configure. Although this has a little bit of lag in time, it's really showing how easy this is to actually set up.
Yep, sort of quite familiar stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
No rocket science involved so far.
Nothing too technical here. Okay, and there we go. So the gateway PowerHour test is online, ready to be used. So we've got Power BI available, Power Apps, Power Automate. If we wanted to have Logic Apps and Azure Analysis Service, we'd actually create that on the other side. So now, if I go back to my familiar Power Apps screen, I now see that I have this gateway available to me. Okay, now from there, I could actually go and grab data, SQL database, all that good stuff. So that's all set up there for me. Okay. If I wanted to jump in and create a new app, I would actually see that available to me. So just briefly show this, and then we'll get on and we'll make our app.
So when you configure the gateway, Jason, you're basically, you know, for SQL Server, from that perspective, you're giving it the right login credentials that's got the right security on the back end to expose the tables and the data that you want from SQL Server. But
yeah. Okay. So that's that in a nutshell. Can we show the
back to the
slides, please? Let me stop sharing for a minute.
Okay, I think we're back.
Okay, so we've obviously shown there how reasonably simple it is to actually install the gateway. If you just go on to the next slide, please, Martin. So our aim this morning is to create an app that is reading back to a version of AX 2012. And what the information that we're trying to pull is around certification and audits of suppliers. So we're going to have 4 screens. Basically, the first screen is to pull the supplier information. So we're going to read that directly from AX. We're going to have a screen where we can actually add a supplier certificate. We're not going to write directly back to the SQL database, because that would be bad practice without actually checking any data and all that good stuff. I'm actually going to use an Excel sheet, which potentially then could be uploaded into AX using other tools. I'm going to then have a screen which has a supplier audit checklist with some options on and some text input, which I'll then demo how we could quite simply email that to other people within the organisation. Okay, jump to, so in a nutshell, what we're going to do, we're going to log into Make Power Apps. We've created the new on-premise gateway. We're now going to use the gateway to create a Power App and create the supplier certification app, looking back at Dynamics. Jump to, I'm okay to take control, Martin? Yeah.
Where you go.
Okay. Right, so the first thing we're going to do, for people who aren't familiar, this is Make Power Apps screen. I'll just close that browser there. I'm going to make a new app. I'm actually going to make a Canvas app this morning, and I'm going to give it a tablet layout. You can actually go straight from your data, but right now I'm going to build it from scratch. Okay, so let's just skip that nice message there. This is my screen to make the app, to design it. I've got a view here of the screen that I'm on the left hand side. I've got 1 screen available to me. This morning, as I said, we're going to make 4 screens. So I'll just quickly bob another 3 in here. And it's as simple as this. And as you can see, as I hit new screen, I have the options to actually have certain templates available to me. One of the templates that we're going to use is an email template. So that will come into there. And when you actually load the email template in there, it does bring some added functions already set up for you. I'll just close that for now. Nice and simple, so I know where I'm working. I'm going to rename these screens. So this one will be my home screen. Please do not pull me up on any spelling this morning.
Just imagine we're not here. That's fine.
Yeah.
No pressure.
I do that anyway, unless I still make spelling mistakes. Yeah. And certification. And this purely is just so that I know where I'm working and I don't have to remember what is screen 1, what is screen 4.
Yeah. This is, I mean, it's kind of like a dream really, because I remember actually developing a framework that turned created a UI in an architecture that we built from scratch with Win32 in .NET, based off a data source. All that from scratch, and it was based on SQL Server and written in. It was actually written in Visual Basic.NET for our sins. So, you know, but that was restricted really only to one particular. Well, we built it eventually. We tweaked it so it could handle different data sources. Anything that was kind of ODBC connected, we could build a UI off automatically. And put a bunch of wrappers around it, but I mean, this is incredibly powerful what Microsoft have created here, right? In terms of
Absolutely.
it doesn't just talk to SQL Server, that's, like we're doing this morning. As I've said, there's loads of connectivity for lots of different data sources. And you've also got a database in the cloud in terms of the common data service. So it really is a very powerful set of tools. Microsoft doing what they do best, making it all easy for us.
So I now have the layout of my app that I want to design. I now need to get some data for it. So I'll just click over here and see what connections I've got. Now already in my app, I have got a connection for Outlook, both for mailbox and users here, and something called a My People collection, which I'll touch on later on. But these two connectors here have come in purely because I put an email template screen in there. So it's put the screen in there for me. And it's also recognized that we need these connectors for the screen. Okay. So I need some more connector, some more data, some more connections. One of them that I'll need, and you can see that they're listed here. There's further connections down, which I'll show later. But the first one that we'll have is the SQL Server. So this is through our gateway, back to our AX instance. And if I just connect to that over here on the right hand side, it'll bring me some tables. Takes a second to load. Now, for people who are familiar with the architecture of 2012, you'll recognize some of these tables. Okay. So you can scroll down, choose the tables you want. If you know the ones you want, very simply start typing into the search. Sorry, it's vendor view, isn't it? So we'll have vendor view. We'll also have vendor certification. So vendor certification. We'll have vendor type as well. And the only other one then is the vendor table. Would help if my mouse would stay still and stop moving about this morning. And the vendor table. And then the last one that I need, so that I can get names and addresses of our vendors. These are party name and address view. Okay, so click right there. As you can see on the left hand side, it's working away. I'm going to bring those tables through for me to access. And this is what's really nice. Once the gateway is there, then it's that simple to access those tables. So we can pull information from here quite easily. The last piece of connection that I need is an Excel sheet that I've got set up, and I'm going to access that through the connector for OneDrive for Business. You'll see that I've already got OneDrive for Business for my account there. And it'll go away, look in the OneDrive, and it's found a certification spreadsheet. Click on there. It will then ask me what sheet I like from there on the table. So cert table is in there. I'll come back to that Excel sheet shortly when we get there. So that's me now set up. I've got all the building blocks that I should need to get this app underway. If I switch back now to my tree view, which gives me my screens, and I come onto my home screen, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to insert a gallery. Okay, now a gallery is going to give me a view of information. It's purely doing what it says. It is a gallery, so the only thing that's on here is you can actually view it. Right now, this gallery is looking at no data source, so it's pulling nothing through at the moment. The data source I want it to bring through is the vendor view data source. Okay. So it goes away. You may have seen the 3 little dots going across the top of my screen, which says it was accessing the information. So that's now accessing the vendor view table on my AX 2012 gateway. But with a little bit of syntax, and forgive me for cutting and pasting, but I don't want to bore everybody with typing this in. At the moment, it's just looking at the vendor view and pulling everything through. But what I want to do is filter my view, and the only thing I want to read is from the entity USMF, which is an entity within the 2012 instance that I'm looking at. Okay. I'm now going to come across on the right hand side, and because if you look at this view here, it's got this little icon on the left hand side here. That's if you want a picture within your gallery. So you might, if you had a product gallery, you wanted to display a product, or perhaps somebody's picture in there if you were looking at users. I don't actually want any products this morning, so it's as simple as just saying I'll have title and subtitle. Okay. Now, if I come across here and look at the fields that I'm reading from the vendor view, I'm actually reading the bank account number of the supplier and the actual account number. I want the account number, but we don't really want to show the bank account number of the supplier on there. So simple again, I'm just going to change it, and it's giving me all the fields available to me. Click name there, click away, and it's that simple. So now I have the account number, and I've got the name of the actual supplier on there. Okay, I'll narrow that down a little bit. I'm now going to bring something called a form in. Okay, so this is to display some data. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to base this form on the gallery that I've just put in. If I just bring that over here for a second. Okay, so the form that I've brought in, I just want to make some changes to it. First of all, I'm going to change my data source to it, to my vendor table from AX. I'm going to change the actual columns that I want from there, so I'm only going to have one column. And then I'm going to bring in the fields that I want. So if I just click on edit fields, and now it's not bringing any fields through. The gallery did. This doesn't, because the gallery is already looking at the table. And the fields that I want here are account number and whether the account is blocked or not. Okay, just add those in. Okay. Now I need to change the items that it's actually looking at for this table. I'm going to change them. And if you see me skipping about, some of the options that I have to format and everything are on the right hand screen, and then some of the more interesting things for this table are across here. So the items that I'm looking at, I just need to bring a little bit of syntax in there. I'll explain what I'm doing. And again, this is when I said if you're comfortable really with Excel, then you can get comfortable with the syntax in here. So I'm looking up from a Venn table, and what I'm saying is that the party will equal gallery 1. So this is my gallery, if you remember, and the selected item on there. So if I just click away, 1 second, I'm now actually bringing through the account number of the selected item on this gallery. So I've got 2 separate tables, but we're actually taking a look up from here across here, and we're saying whatever the selected item is on here, we'll pick up the account number and whether the account is blocked or not. Okay, I'll bring a second form in. And I think we'll display the account name and address for the supplier. Again, I just bring it in. I'm going to look at data source will be the address view that I brought in earlier from AX. I'm going to change my column again. I'm going to make this 2 columns, and then the fields that I want to bring in are the address and the name of the supply. Okay. And then again, at the moment it's purely looking at that table, but the item that I want to bring through, with a little bit of syntax, we can look back up and we can look up the selected one. Okay, click away, give it a second. It's just looking back, you see the 3 dots potentially just going across my screen. And there we go. So just to recap, I brought a gallery in there, giving the supplier account number and name. Sorry, just let me unlock that. So if I hit a preview button now, what you'll see is, at the moment it's looking at Contoso Asia. If I want to look at the parcel company, just click on this button here. 3 little dots go across, and this information quickly changes to the parcel company. Now on our AX instance, we haven't got an address of the parcel company. Let's have a look at another one. There we go, with an address in for this supplier. Just click back to my design mode. Just click there. No. So you can do a lot of formatting here, but obviously for time's sake, we haven't got that available to us. So the next thing I'm going to add is a data table, because we want to show some data for our supplier. The data source that I'm going to bring through is the certification table. And we'll just move that down here. Get a little bit, squeeze everything in. Okay. And again, the items are looking at the vendor certification, and with a little bit of syntax. Again, this is where the low code, no code comes in, because this is purely, if you like, formulas that you would write in an Excel sheet. So we're going to filter on our vendor certification table, and we're going to look back again to find the selected one that we want from our gallery. Okay. And then we're going to add some fields. So the fields that we want from this are certificate received, certification type, certification number, and we also want a valid to date. Okay, so I'll add those fields in. Okay, so this is my data table. Nothing's showing there as yet because I'm in preview mode. Just click on the table, make it a little bit easier to see. And what we can do from here, we could actually make the header title there a little bit easier to read, make it more sense. So I just click in to here and make this received. So my header text will change to received. We'll make this one type. Make the cert number. The valid to date we can make expiry. Okay. If we wanted to display these in a different order, then we could actually change them, the order that they're actually sat in. So at the moment, my cert number is sat at order 3. If I wanted to change it to 2, I'd skip over and I could change them around and fix them. If I now drop into my preview mode, you'll see if I go to, let's go to US Tax 01, this account here. Now, you'll see that my address has come through, my name has come through, but also, interestingly, my data table is now giving me this information. So if I just, for 1 second, I can just switch screens. And for anybody who's familiar with AX 2012, I'm in my purchase ledger on my instance of 2012. I can see this supplier here. If I come up to certifications there, I can see that they've got 2 certifications here. Now they are actually matching the ones that I've pulled through. Okay, so we're reading directly from our AX SQL there, and we're pulling the information through on the app.
So if I'm in goods inwards, or I'm out in the yard and I'm looking at a vehicle that's just backing in to offload, I can now, with my phone, once you've deployed this, check the certification of that supplier.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome stuff. And it's not too much of a stretch. I mean, you sit here and you think about the possibilities. You know, you could, if you know, we were talking about a breakages app earlier on. If, you know, when we open the back of the lorry and we start unloading pallets and we see a big dent in something on the side of one of those products, you know, we could extend the functionality here to take a photo of that non-conformity, to register that in the system, to start a whole nother business process in terms of returning those goods back to the supplier, and, you know, creating an invoice query or whatever needed to be done in terms of your business process. But that's all perfectly doable. Bring in data from within different data sources, because that's the really powerful thing here, is that we're looking at AX on premise right now, but we could also be pulling data from any number of different solutions and systems, either on prem or in the cloud, and bringing it all together. And that's the real power, and what really excites us about Power Platform, and how you can use it to improve your business. So yeah, it's great stuff, Jason.
Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to add a couple of buttons onto this screen now. So just very quickly, add a button. Bring this down here out of the way. I'll just very quickly copy and paste that. Okay. So I'm going to make this button a little bit easier to see than just a button. Just bear with me 1 second. I'll make this first button submit certificate. And the second button, I'll make submit audit. My mouse will stay still on the screen. So primarily what these buttons are for is to navigate from the screen to the other screens that I've set up. Okay. Now I'm going to leave the buttons there for a moment, but you'll see when I go to preview, we haven't set them up to do anything, so they'll just sit there. Okay. That's my home screen done, apart from the 2 buttons. We'll now move on to pull through the certification screen. Okay, so come onto the screen. This is a blank one. Now this screen, I'm actually going to link back to my Excel sheet. Now my Excel sheet is set up purely to collate the information from the screen, put it into a table, and then somebody could sense check it, and then if they wanted to write back to the SQL database, they could. We're not doing that this morning because obviously there's best practice and everything around that for writing back to AX SQL. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a header onto my screen very quickly, very easily. Just make the appearance nice for people. We'll make it blue. And we'll make the text white. And we'll call it supplier 30. Anybody seen the spelling mistake? Just close my ampersand there. Okay, and we'll just bring that into the center. And again, all the formatting is fairly easy on this. Just make it a little bit bigger. Click away. Okay. So I'm going to add a data source to this, and as I said before, it's going to be our Excel table. Okay. So we'll put another form in here like we did on the previous one, but we'll make this one an editable form. Our previous ones were just to display information, but we want the user now to be able to enter text and information on here and actually write back to the actual Excel sheet. I'll change the data source to insert table. And then I will add some fields. Okay. And the fields that we're going to add are our certifying organisation, our certification date, we'll have our account name, we'll have our certification number, we'll have our expiry date, we'll have our account number, our due date, our certification type. Now these are all the fields that are actually on the tables within AX. Our effective date. Okay, and we'll add them. So it goes away, it pulls information from Excel. There we go. The columns I'm going to change to 1, and I'm going to make it horizontal. Okay. So something we need to do on this. So we'll go to our default mode for this screen. And at the moment it's in edit, so when you go into the screen you could edit a record on there. You don't actually want to do that. We want to change this to a new record because we want to have a new record to it. Okay. So we can make it a little bit easier for our user who's using this screen. So certifying organisation, just unlock the card. When you put these cards in, they're actually locked for editing, so I'll just unlock that. You can actually put a little bit of syntax in here. We'll put in the user who's using the app, and we'll put in their full name. Click away. So as you can see, it's pulled my name there. The account number, just unlock it. So again, we can actually bring through, if you remember, our gallery from the first screen. It's called gallery 1. So what we'll do, we'll ask this screen to go away, look at gallery 1, look at the selected, and we'll pull through the account name that was there. Its name. Okay. As you can see, it's pulling through California State. And then lastly, we'll just make it a little bit easier. We'll do the same thing and pull the account number through. Okay, just look back at the gallery 1. We'll take the selected item and we'll take the account number from that item. Okay. So that's all very nice. We've got some fields on here which are date fields. Now obviously one of the things when you're making one of these apps is you can get somebody coming in, typing exactly what they want in a date field, formatting, all that good stuff. But what you can do is we could change this field and actually put a date picker in there. Okay. We'll keep the field that it brought through from my Excel sheet in, and what we'll say, we'll ask it to pick up whatever's in our date picker 1 selected date. And then just to make our app a little bit nicer, the original field that was in there will just hide away. So all the user will see is a date picker. So I would do that for, I won't do it now for all date fields on there. And you'll see in a moment when I preview the app why I put the date picker on there. So if I just click in, so what the user will actually see, yep, it's brought me through, it's brought the account name that I want to put supplier certification in for, it's brought the account number through, and it's brought a date picker through. So the only text that I can put in there, click down, is from a very nice date picker here. So I put in 24th, click OK, it changes it. So there's no ambiguity in terms of, well, this is how I type the date, this is how somebody else types the date. That's what it's going to bring through. Okay. So that's all good. If I bring in a second form here, again an editable form, just make that a bit smaller. What we'll do, we'll just link that back to my Excel sheet again, and I'll just bring in a few fields that I couldn't actually fit on this form here. I could have fitted them on and had a scroll bar, but I think it looks a lot nicer as a separate form. So, certification received, details in progress, comments. There we go. Okay. Just goes away and looks at the Excel sheet. Look at it. I'm going to change that to 1, make this horizontal again. Okay. So there we go. And again, if for the attachments card like there, if you look back onto my AX instance, if I went into, I'll just pull AX across. One of the things is when I actually put a new record on there, so if I look at in progress and certain things, there are actually tick boxes on there. So what I can do on my actual app is, instead of just having a field similar to what we did with the date field, I'll just add a checkbox on there. I'll make this field actually look back at that checkbox. So checkbox 1 dot value. There you go. And then just for design, I'll make that field invisible. Then all the user will see is a checkbox option there. Okay. So when the user comes in, excuse me, what that actually did there was, if you remember on this form here, we asked it to be a new field and not edit an old one. So I just didn't do it on this one here. So if I click new there, and now preview again, it brings them up. So now I have a tick box, okay, and some information to put in. So lastly, I just need to put a button on here. And we'll call this button submit. And what we want this button to do on select is, just bear with me 1 second. Okay, that's in here. Come back. I basically want to clear the form when we press this button, and I want to navigate back. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So now I do have an Excel sheet here. As you can see, we've got one record in there at the moment. So for a certificate. So if I just bring that back across, close that down. Just bear with me 1 second, just having a technical difficulty with my mouse. Okay.
This always feels like the magician saying nothing up my sleeves section
Yeah.
of the demo.
Is it? Right, so I want to change my my syntax there. Good job, I remembered that. Why is it always when you're live with people that the simplest thing like a mouse can really trip you up not working properly? Okay, so if I now preview this screen, got this information here. We can put some information in, type. I haven't changed these obviously to the certification date in there. If I hit submit, it should now go back and write this record to my Excel sheet. And it goes back to my home screen. Okay, so now if I go into my Excel sheet with a little bit of luck, I'll just have to reopen it because you've got to have the Excel sheet closed as you update.
And you said that's sitting on your OneDrive for Business, yeah? That's where your Excel is, yeah.
That's where it is. And that's purely hang on 1 second, it's just opening.
That's one of the good things about the Power Apps is you do get an amount that you can do with the Microsoft Office license. That's sort of out of the box, really, which is great.
It is.
Aha, there we are.
There we go. Okay. Now it's wrote the record in for me. Okay. So this now could be sense checked. And obviously it could then write back to AX imported.
Yeah. If anyone on the call is scratching their head and thinking, well, how would we write that back? What's the best way of doing that? We can talk about that if you want to put that in the Q&A. We're more than happy to spend a few minutes covering those sorts of write back questions off if you've got them.
Okay, so my next screen on here on the app is my audit checklist. Again, we'll bring a header in, but we'll cheat a little bit because we'll just cut and paste from the certification screen. And we'll just change its name. Okay. There we go. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to quickly add a label. And we'll add a little bit of syntax to this. Because what we want to display in here sorry, bear with me. Clipboard's not quite plain. What we want to display in here is our account name as a title, and if you remember that, we're looking back again to our selected item on our gallery from our first screen, so it's now bringing in California State Tax Authority. Now what this screen is a checklist for somebody on site to actually answer some questions. So if they're looking at a piece of kit or whatever and they have to do an audit on it, this is what it is. It's basically a little bit of a questionnaire for them to do. Okay, so we'll pull in another label. You could actually hold this information if you wanted to in potentially in a SharePoint list. But for ease, this is what we're going to do. Okay, so our first question that we want answering is, does the receiving inspector understand the critical control panel? Okay, so we'll give the people who are looking at this form, we'll give them a drop-down option to answer. I think I'll drop down across to here. And when you put a drop-down in, it automatically defaults to options of 1, 2, and 3. With a little bit of syntax here, we can actually change that to a and C. Okay, simple as that. So now our options when we display this, instead of saying 1, 2, 3, comes in with our choices there. The second thing we'll put is a comments field. So text input. So whoever's actually filling this form in, if they want to change it at all, give us some information about being on site, and that's the text input field. And if I just come across here, you'll see that the default is text input. We don't actually want that. What we can do, we could give a hint text to the person who's filling it in. So add action plan notes here. Okay, you'll see that comes up just as a helpful hint text there. And what we'll do, you will make that a multi-line text there. So if they start typing away, a little scroll bar will come down. Just preview that now. There we go. How are we doing for time, Martin?
We're good. It's 10:45 right now, so yeah, we're on track.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got 6 questions that we want to ask. So if you just bear with me, I'll just put 6 questions in.
For the magic of cut and paste.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but as you've been working there, it's nice to know. I mean, I guess we used to call it IntelliSense, didn't we? When
yes, yeah.
The software gives you hints, and a lot of that built into the Power Apps development environment that we're seeing as you do this.
Yeah.
Particularly that it's nice for people who, there are an awful lot of Excel supremos, like you said you were, Jason, back in the day, out there, and that familiar function button at the top there is going to give them a lot of confidence that they can do this.
Yeah. What I'll do, I'll just for time's sake, I'll leave the question as the same for demonstration purposes, but you could have obviously put any text in there. We'll put corresponding checkboxes in there, drop down selections. And this is the thing when you're doing these, is once you've actually defined what data you need and you go away and get it, you tend to find the longest point is actually making these things. Yes, well, I'd like that a slightly different colour, and I'd like that sat there, and all that good stuff then comes into play. And we'll add some.
Yeah, I suppose the really nice thing is that if you're working with a colleague in the business and you're designing something together, collaborating on something like this, even if we're all working from home, kind of like what as we're doing now, really is very simple. And we more and more we're using digital whiteboarding as well to design some stuff. I mean, Jason and some colleagues internally at Columbus have built some Power Apps for us this year, using and we've all been working from home just the same as everybody else, so able to get that done using remote tools is awesome. So it's adapting to the new norm.
It is. So what I want to do now is collect the information that somebody will fill in here. So they're going to answer via a drop down an answer to these questions. They're going to put potentially some notes in from the customer, and then they're going to submit it here. So just like I did before, I put a button in. We're going to call this button submit. But unlike before, where we wrote back to the Excel sheet, what we're going to do is use something called a collection within Power Apps. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to take the information that's entered here and put it into a collection within and hold the information within the Power App itself. Okay, so you'll have to bear with me a second while I put the syntax in here to do this. So.
Again, I remember writing collection handling from scratch in VB.NET. Yeah. And working through a collection and persisting it. Looking out if anything's changed in it and hooking up, the individual items on the collection to the sort of main handler and all that good stuff. It's all done for you.
So let's have a look here. not quite. So just let me check my syntax, because obviously this is my syntax from previous. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll level 14. Okay. So bear with me 1 second. Just need to know what my labels are called. 3 underscore 1. Come down 1.1. This is a curse of having pre-prepared syntax.
We'd have loved to watch you type it all out from scratch, Jason, but we just don't have the time. Or the will to live.
Absolutely. Okay.
So we give kudos points to anybody in the Q&A who can spot the error.
Yeah. Bear with me 1 second. Let me tell you what I'll do. You got some music to fill in for a second?
Don't tempt me. You know me, I'll start singing. Nobody wants that.
What I'm actually doing is just editing my syntax off screen, just in case you've.
Quick bit of search replace.
I wish it was that easy, Martin. I wish it was that easy. It's best laid plans, this, because as soon as I did it last night, it was fine. But
well, the demo gods have been pretty kind this morning so far. So
yeah, let's just make life a little bit easier for us as well. So, label 3, yeah, my first drop down. Drop down 1, yeah, good. My label for my text is text input 1.
So while Jason's doing that, anybody on the call, if you've got any questions, do get them ready for the Q&A at the end, or you can pop them in now. We can be ruminating on them, or even thinking about them while we've just finished off the demo side of things. And then just to close things out in a few minutes, we'll be talking about some of the ways that we can support you in your Power Apps journey after today.
There we go. We'll simplify things, and we'll bring the first question in and the first answer in the first Dropbox. So what that will do now, if everything's kind to us, if I come into my audit checklist, again, it's pulling through from our first page, California State Tax Authority. Question that we could ask there, drop down choice. We could have check control panel in the text. If we hit submit, now if we ignore this page for a second, I'm going to click back to my demonstration, back to my audit checklist. What that should have done is that should have made me a collection of data within the app. So as you can see, it's made this thing here called checklist, and it's brought through the account number for the US Tax Authority. It's brought through my question, and it's brought through the text that the person's put in. So basically, if somebody, as Martin says, out there on the yard checking a piece of equipment or something, we can say, does the receiving inspector understand the critical control panel before he starts? He ticks yes, and puts a value in, comes back to the checklist for a better look. And that's collected the information from here. Okay. And the last final piece of the jigsaw is if we now want to email that. So the first thing I need to do is just adjust my syntax, because we're only going to bring one question in. We should be good. Bear with me 1 second. So as I said previously, this email screen is a predefined template that's there. It brings through to, from, where we can search the subject and the message that we can put in. So I think the first thing that I'll do is we'll change the default on this, so there's a little bit less typing in for people. He says, come back. Okay. So we'll make our subject there, new audit. So give it a space, and then we'll bring in again our choice from gallery 1, and we'll bring our supplier in. And we'll just say we'll have the selected item from that gallery. And the name. And as you can see, it's made it a little bit better for the user because we've now got new audit, the California State Tax Authority. Just bring that down to that. Okay. So it already has some predefined syntax in here to send the email. So I could simply send the email with new audit, please check on here. So if I go and play, search my people. And because we connected the connection to our Outlook connector, give it a second. Okay.
Too soon.
Spoke too soon. Spoke too soon. Tell you what I'll do just for what time we're on, 11 o'clock and you want?
Yeah.
Should we skip to one we prepared earlier?
Why not?
We could show that, couldn't we? So you'll recognise the screens in 1 second. Come on, the dots of death. There we go. Okay. So, as we saw previously on my previous screen, what we're aiming for is a app that we can pull information from our on-premise AX. and as you can see, I'm pulling the suppliers through. If I want to submit an audit for this supplier, I can add my account name from what was already chosen from the previous screen, and we could actually make some changes here. We could type some notes in, testing, and I'll just give it something else on there, and we could submit that. Now on the email screen, it's brought across the subject, so we don't have to type that in. And if we go across and search for people in here, it now picks me up. Okay, I'll add myself. Hi, today is Wednesday. So I could spell, and I could send that email directly from here. Okay. Okay. And now if I just come into Outlook, I'll just show that email just for complete. And there you go, there's my email. But what this actual email has sent me, if we preview it, it's also sent me my questions and answers from the form that we asked to be filled in on site.
And that came out of your collection that you saved, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay, so apologies for our slight mishap with the email screen. Best laid plans, but
do you know what? I really think it's gone very well, you know, in terms of the demo gods. So yep. that's great stuff. Okay. Great stuff. Okay. So that's all from Jason on the demo front. Yep. Hopefully that was gave you an insight on how you can connect up an on-premise solution. Doesn't have to be Dynamics AX, you know, as we've said, you know, we're connecting directly back to the SQL Server database that Dynamics AX 2012 talks to. You know, it could be any other SQL database or some other system that's sat on your behind your firewall, and then we're pushing the data securely out. Not necessarily you know, using any fancy security or, you know, things that aren't familiar. It's all Active Directory based. We can, as I said, we can lock down the data that is exposed using, you know, the SQL backend and the credentials that we supply to the gateway and all that good stuff. So, you know, it really no excuse for getting started if you've got a burning use case within your business. And you want to start moving forward and making some adjustments to some processes to help you adapt and recover from you know, what's been a difficult year, which is what the session was all about, that revitalization and transforming your operations. So let me share my screen just to finish things off. It's just gone 11 o'clock, so let's dip back to PowerPoint for a second. Okay, so Jason, I guess we covered this two-way integration. So you know, as we've said, from the perspective of what we've done today.
Sorry, Martin, are you sharing? You're not sharing.
I'm not sharing?
No.
Okay. Hang on.
The screen's still showing Jason's.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Oh, it's asking me, do you want to share? Okay. All right, hopefully everyone can see that now. So yeah, so what we were talking about, and we were asking for your, if you've got questions about this in the Q&A, do put them in. So we've done kind of one-way integration, but at the moment, but we've persisted the data, saved the data that we've captured into an Excel spreadsheet. So if we wanted to push that data back, we could, but there are various ways, I guess, that we could achieve that.
If you want, I can talk through this slide.
Yes, if you're happy to do so.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
So for our demo application, we focused on reading data from an AX 2012 database. And now we can use Power Platform to create a user interface that uses that data and captures new input. Reading information straight from the SQL database is fine when the requirements are reasonably simple. The AX 2012 server calculates for each user what they can see. It handles processing, company level security and extensible security for you. When we're connecting straight to the database, we circumvent that logic. Because we are circumventing that logic, we recommend that you don't use this on-premise connector to write straight back to the SQL Server backend. Instead, we send updates to a separate database or file queue. So Jason showed where we would save it to an Excel file. That Excel file is something that we stored in OneDrive that you can integrate to later, but you can also use this data gateway to save files on-premise in a location where you then have your integrations that you possibly already have with products like Biz or any built-in integration. Pick up those files, import it through the AOS, so your AOS business logic does all your validation, security, and extra business processes that you need. And that's really a better way to write back to the database. Try not to write back straight to the SQL database, circumventing that very expensive AOS that you have sitting there. This is a indirect two-way integration because we are putting data somewhere else for processing, possibly also for approval before it gets imported into the AOS. If you go to the next slide, Martin, I'll show you how you can do a direct integration.
Yeah, just before we move that, I guess you could, if you were writing back to, it depends what version of AX 2012 you've got, right? You've got options around using the data import export framework as well. I mean, you've put to increase biz on the slide, which is one of our preferred products that we use to do this. But I guess there are various ways. Once you can get a file there, you just need to process it and write it back to SQL Server via the AOS is the point.
Yeah.
But there are various tools you could use to do it. Cool. So next slide. Yeah.
All right. So a direct two-way integration is possible. It will just need more developer action. So it's going to be harder to start with that. So you can always start with the gateway app, expose some simple information, get your ID and prototype up and running, and use that as investment to get further development done. But a direct two-way integration to your on-premise server is possible. In this layout, you need an X++ developer that will create service endpoints that expose the functionality your solution requires. An example of endpoints would be for each get customer list, get each customer certification, create a new customer certification, patch a customer certification, etc. So a developer will have to create each endpoint. A web app developer is then required to write a wrapping service with all the suitable security in place so the endpoints can be exposed to the World Wide Web. We pass authenticated calls from the web to the AX 2012 Windows service. Finally, when this web service is in place, a Power Platform developer creates a custom connector that wraps the functionality exposed to the web app and makes it available to the Power Apps platform. This direct integration means we can utilize the AX 2012 server logic directly, but that comes at the technical cost of needing a developer to prepare these integrations for you.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Llewellyn. That's great stuff. So the key takeaway is don't cheat. Don't try and write directly back to SQL Server without going through an AOS if you're talking to AX 2012. And I guess you could do this with earlier versions of AX, right, guys? You could do this with AX 2009 if you're still on that platform. There's always a way around with an integration that's designed in the same sort of way, because these tools existed in previous versions. So, okay, let's get to the Q&A and wrap up then. So, hopefully this morning has given you a flavour of what you can do in terms of extending business functionality using the Power Platform, whether it be on-premise, whether it be an ERP solution, whether it be Excel, SharePoint. There are the options and possibilities are endless in the ways that you can solve business problems using this platform. So what I want to do now is just talk to you a little bit about how we can help you do that moving forward from today. So we've got a model. So as I said, we've turned some of our functional consultants into citizen developers. You've just watched one of them. He's probably been working with Power Apps for about 3 or 4 months, and he's got to that level of capability to be able to do what he's just done. So it isn't hard. If you know Excel and you've got some slightly technical things about you, you can pick this stuff up, build these rapid no-code solutions. And the important thing is that you're engaging your team members within your business. So you're listening to people's ideas and you're enacting those ideas to adapt the business rapidly to meet the challenges that we're all facing today. I mentioned sort of briefly earlier that actually you can do certain things with the Power Platform using an Office 365 license. If you have questions about how you want to do that, do reach out to us after today, and we can talk you through what licensing options you've got. And also, if you've got Dynamics 365 as well, you get certain rights to use Power Platform, and we can talk you through your options. But the point is that for the kind of from a if you're coming into this cold and you are starting from scratch, for the price of a cup of coffee per employee per day, you can really start to innovate using this platform. Like we say, get into digital whiteboarding, brainstorm, workshops, some ways that you can add value back to your customers and employees within your business, and take things forward. And within a couple of weeks, working with us, we can take you through the basics of building solutions like we've seen today. We focus on those key industries you can see there. We've talked a lot about manufacturing today, but we also look at things like e-commerce and field service as well as part of our focus. So we've got consultants like Jason who have worked in businesses like yours, who understand your challenges, that can translate your problems into solutions or help you do the same. You can avoid that shadow IT that we talked about at the top of the session this morning. If you are within the IT team and you're worried about this new tool coming in through the back door and people starting to use it because they've got an Office license, don't panic. There are ways that you can put controls over this. You can create development environments. You can move code from development to test. You can manage a full test cycle. You can even start to automate some of that testing. We can talk to you about how you might want to do that to really build a proper development DevOps framework around this by building a centre of excellence within your team, and we'll come on to that approach a little bit in a second. So we can help you with what we call our lean business accelerators. Lean because we're not talking about huge investment here. We're talking about getting started quickly, iterating fast, making changes and adaptations as you go to improve what you're doing around your business processes and the IT support that you put in place. So we can help you through things like App in a Day, where we take you through something similar to what we've just done through a 5 or 6 hour session. We can do help you work with the full stack of the Power Platform, and even get to the point where we can start looking at analytics in the apps and how they're being used and how they're performing and functioning. So again, just coming back to the kind of lean process and that iteration. So again, if you're into sort of lean change, go over to leanchange.org, take a look at some of the methodologies that are talked about on those sites, or those kind of lean change sites. and think about how you can, quickly, without putting a huge monolithic project in place, get insights about business problems from your colleagues, just over a coffee, discuss those options, and what you could actually do to improve the business. It might be a process like we've just seen this morning. Then think about experiments. It's not all about IT. It could be some training or some other sort of process change within your business. But experiments in terms of small changes you can iterate on and then come back to, and once you've introduced those changes, review the results and go back around the loop again. It's very much a kind of we like to call it sort of dream plan do within Columbus, in terms of these quick ways that you can build this sort of extended functionality out. Then from a perspective, if you want Columbus to help you, we can certainly be involved. If you would like to take the reins in building your own capability with Power Platform out, we can help you, as I said, with app in a day sessions, support you with things like digital whiteboarding to look at what your options are around solving certain business problems. We can help you, with that innovation process, provide kind of development assistance to you, and then talk to you and train you in how to do that whole application lifecycle management process to make sure you're ready to go live and ready to maintain and service those apps once you've and test them, of course, once you've developed them. Or Columbus can take more of a lead and help you do some of those things in terms of digital whiteboarding, and talk to you about the whole process of doing a bunch of iterations. Or if you want to take it a little bit slower and build full specifications as well and wireframe the whole thing, we can go through that sort of process as well. So we can be flexible on the way we deliver for you. Start small is the key here. So what we want you to do is just, from today, maybe have a follow-on call with us about what your, business problems are. Let's not start with the technology. Let's start with the business problem. But within your own business, start to talk about the Power Platform. Start to evangelize about it. Do some internal briefings and demos. Maybe build a proof of concept assisted by a partner like ourselves. And get to the point where you can launch your first production app. And then things, this is starting to look like a COVID-19 graph here, but it's the exponential growth of the innovation that we want to build within your business. So get to the point where you've got multiple production apps, and then when you're really mature with this, we can help you with a centre of excellence approach. So Microsoft provide a centre of excellence toolkit to help you bring together the administration, the nurturing of your internal team, to help support them and to help you operate the Power Platform to the best of your ability and really become a shining centre of excellence in the use of the platform. So going forward from today, what we'd love to do is to run an app in a day session, maybe for you and your team. So to release the innovation in your operational team with that quick boot camp, we can set up a free tenancy for you with Power Apps to help you get started. If you've got a particular business problem in mind, we would love to talk to you about that, to help you whiteboard a solution around that, propose back to the business for some investment with an ROI and a delivery plan. Working, rapidly and flexibly with us, we can then move on to the further options where we can help you either deliver that solution or support you in delivering it yourselves. The whole point here is that you can probably do 80% of what you need to do unassisted. It's that tricky 20% that you might need to go to a citizen developer for, or if you've not got a citizen dev team right now, come to Columbus and we can help you build out those solutions for the future. And again, leverage our industry knowledge. We've seen many of the problems you're facing with other customers, and we can help you, not necessarily reinvent the wheel. And then just finally, one of the great things about Power Platform is that you can create pre-delivered solution templates that you can adapt. And something that Microsoft has built specifically for the situation that we find ourselves in this year in 2020, they've built a return to work solution. Now, obviously, this week we've seen in the UK lots of discussion around should offices be open. We've had guidance just yesterday to say that if you can work from home, work from home. But businesses are still wrestling with the challenge, of getting back to work and getting their offices to be safe and secure. So there is a framework application set of tools that we can deploy quite quickly for you to help you manage this process. So it helps you decide from a health and safety perspective where you're at. So if you've got multiple sites across the country or even across the globe, you can add those into the solution. You can kind of dashboard, is that ready to reopen, and show the business that you've got a handle on the situation without having to invest a whole lot of time in building an application. You can take this one and adapt it for your own needs. Track how you're prepping your facilities to be reopened with kind of like a facilities management check-in, check-out, for example, of people arriving at the door. Manage maybe hot desk bookings, those sorts of things. So it's all about preparing your working environment to get back to work. And if you're interested in that, again, reach out to us. But you can also go to columbusglobal.com/engb/return-to-work and see more details on how we can help you with that type of solution. So with that said, I think that brings us to an end of the presentation. Do we have any questions in the Q&A to pick up before we leave off for the morning? No questions. Okay, I see a few of you have dropped off from the call as well. So we will provide a link to a download of the session or a stream of the session so that you can go back and look over what we've done this morning. But as for now, from myself, Jason and Llewellyn, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Good stuff. Thanks for the Q&A, Llewellyn, and we hope to speak to you all next time on our next PowerHour session. Thank you.